Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We had a couple weeks off, but I'm delighted to be back here with you. Welcome to Tea and Chat, your weekly dose of spiritual growth and transformation, where we explore your natural spiritual abilities and empower empaths, intuitives, and highly sensitive people to transform your sensitivity into strength. So this week's topic, which is very hot topic for me and globally, Beyond the Veil, a clairvoyance conversation with death. So I bring this up today. I was away from the channel for a few weeks because I was spending time with family as my father passed. And in doing that, I noticed several things energetically that I wanted to share with you. And the reason for sharing is not to change your paradigm or your experience of grief, but to maybe offer a different lens and expansion, maybe a different way of viewing some things that go on during the death process. So right after my dad passed, of course, was a few days later, the Pope passed. And this is in our collective consciousness right now, especially at this heightened time of Easter. And I love Easter, by the way. I think it's probably my favorite holy day of the year. For me, I look inside and go, what parts of myself need to be transmuted, let go, reborn, if you would. So it's a very special time of year, and I really enjoy it. Watching Pope Francis go through his process, just to back up for a minute, started for me and my advanced healers group probably about 6 weeks ago. I was teaching them how to look energetically if a soul was preparing for their next steps. And so we were kind of watching that. And so I was expecting his passing. And with that, no doubt that man's going to wait till after Easter. He's an extremely devotional individual and fulfill his duties. Interesting, too, that he's a Jesuit, so a reformer. So he brought Reformation at this very important time in history that we're in. You hear me talk on the channel a lot about change and growth and awakening and this big shift in consciousness we're in. Yeah, we're right in the middle of it. By the way, if you're new here, I welcome your comments in the chat. I see a piano soul reader. I bet I know who that is. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here. If you want a reading on something, let me know in the chat. I'll give you a little mini read. Yeah, John, good to see you. John, if you want a little read on something, shout out there. That's part of this channel too. I'll talk about a topic and offer little mini reads for those who care to if you comment in the live comments. So lots of death and change going on right now as we look at the Pope. I got to see it up close just recently with a family member, and I wanted to just walk you through as a clairvoyant some things that I noticed, and maybe this would be helpful for you as well. The first thing I noticed was my grandmother showed up in spirit. So this is my dad's mom. And that's not all that unusual in itself. She's been gone a very long time. And seeing her there at first, I was like, oh, hi, I haven't seen you in a long time. And then I was like, oh, she's here to pick up Dad. And then other souls showed up, my uncle. And then, you know, the interesting thing, and when I say showed up, there's a space outside the Akashic records, go across this river. On the other side of the river is where our deceased loved ones are hanging out. They come and visit us. I'm sure you've all had visitors. Maybe you could smell the apple pie that somebody, you know, grandmother or mother used to make for you. Maybe you could smell somebody's cigar. Maybe you just heard somebody whisper in your ear. I mean, if you're in a male body and you just heard a female whisper in your ear, you know for sure that's not your higher self. It's perhaps a spirit or deceased loved one coming by to say hello. So this is not that uncommon that our loved ones will visit. As I was watching everyone gather across the river, as I said, first it was his mom, and then his brother, and then extended family. And I could notice them too. I'm like, well, there's Hazel. And there's a friend from earlier in life. There's Charlie May, and there's so and so. And indeed, I heard from my brother earlier that my dad was talking about these people. So he had brain diagnosis, dementia to Alzheimer's, and in that there would be seemingly times of where the person is not right here, right now, and they're just kind of out of it. What I was noticing was something different. He was going into a life review. But my brother, who was there on the ground with my dad here towards the end too, would say, oh yeah, he was just talking about Charlie May. And I was like, yeah, Charlie's at the river. He's ready for the greeting committee. So I was watching everybody gather at the river, and I was so surprised that, we reach a lot more people than we think. It's really incredible. So the party got bigger and bigger. Let me pause for a minute. Danny, hi from Texas. Yes. Wonderful. Good to have you guys here. And John, you let me know if you want a read on something. Everybody's gathering at the river. Knowing my dad, he was kind of the quiet one. It was like, yes, dear. Very devotional soul, solid, practical, and loved golf. He didn't have particularly large social circles. Like my mom's very social, and she would go to bridge and be part of various volunteer groups, social organizations, always very active. Dad was kind of the quiet one. Supportive, always supportive. And as I looked at the party gathering on the other side of the river, I was like, wow, we have reached a lot more people than we think. They're, in looking at the extended family and some of their extended family, I started asking, I said, well, who's this lady with the reddish hair? Like, I don't recognize her. And talking to like my family and getting to know who these people were there. And there was a sense of, what would you say? Like, when you go to high school graduation and it's a huge celebration and everybody's there, right? Your whole family and friends and everybody are there. It's like that. So I was so surprised how far the reach of supporters were there. So that was one thing I started to notice. And as soon as I saw the gathering on the river, I booked my ticket to go back. And I mentioned, here's another one, is that I mentioned that Dad had, what would you call it? I don't know the difference, dementia and Alzheimer's, but brain thing. And I know people listening are going to say, yeah, I've had a friend, loved one, whatever, has gone through that. It's hard. It's challenging because they're not right here, right now. What I witnessed, and this is just my observation, was he had one foot here and one foot there. And that was one thing. And then the other was that he was already starting his life review. And so some of the things that would come up in his conversation as he would come in and out of maybe sleep, he was sleeping a lot at that time, would wake up and saying, oh, I got to balance the ledger. The ledger's $3 off. So he was an accountant. And this was a problem in life. That's how big his problems were. The ledger's $3 off. So he would kind of come in and out of these spaces and say some of these things. I could see right away that he's in his life review and he's having a hard time telling if he's here or there or in the past where he's doing his review. If you haven't heard the term life review, we all have this when we pass. Every soul does. There's no heaven and hell. There's one space everybody goes to, I believe. A lot of this comes, in my experience, from my teacher who died and came back 7 times before he died. completely. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And you can just hear also looking at the energy, which is what we teach you in this style of training, clairvoyant training, how to look. It's a life review. And in that life review, you look through your life where you've met with other people, engaged with other people, and you kind of relive that. But not only from the first person, like I'm talking to Joe, but you're going to also relive it from Joe's experience. So how did your words affect Joe? We go through that again, too. That's part of the life experience. Knowing that, does that change your perspective on how we relate to people today? Let's see what we got in the comments real quick. John, description of the river in front of the Akashic records reminds me of the Christian hymn, "Shall we gather at the river?" Yes, and I wonder where that came from, right? How did they know? That's exactly right. They were gathering. So with the Alzheimer's and going through the life review, you experience your own life, how you affected other people, and you experience it from the other way around. You experience it from their perspective, which can be daunting. Yeah, I was not perfect. I get better with age, but I'll have to go through that too. We actually, in part of our practice, we've already gone through some of our life review. So as I'm watching my dad go through this process, the life review comes up. And this was especially clear for me at night. People call, caregivers will say people with Alzheimer's or dementia have sundowners, which in their estimation is things get a little wilder, crazier, unexpected the further into the night. And I experienced that too, in a way of he was more confused of where's here and where's the quote other side. And here's a really interesting thing that happened one night, 2:00 in the morning or something. I go to help him and he's got his hand on his head. He said, "Oh, this is so confusing. There's all these parallel timelines and all this." And he's like, "Oh, it's so confusing." And I'm like, yes, there are parallel timelines. And that's another discussion. But I couldn't get into that with him. I just tried to help him be in the here and now. And he kept trying to say he needed to go home. Well, the other side is the real home. And that's where we start. That's where we return. We have this life that we live. We learn all our lessons that we're learning. We practice some new things. This time I'm a drummer. So, we have new experiences and we go back home. So when I hear him say, "I need to go back home," I'm like, whew, I get it. I want to go back home too. I'm not in a hurry, but I'm excited for it. And I would just kind of quietly reassure him, "Hey, this is your house. Isn't it really nice?" And he said, and looked around. Yeah, this is nice. Let's see what's Piano Dude saying. Wow. Yeah. The other thing, I kind of had a little fun with it too, because things were getting wacky at night. And with this practice that we have in the clairvoyant training, which is for everyone, it's not for people that already think they're clairvoyant. I didn't think I was clairvoyant when I started this. But big part of the practice is being neutral. But you get neutral by being able to see beyond the veil, being able to see a truth from a lie, being able to see what's really going on, not just following direction of someone else, which is how we were all taught from school. Follow the teacher, repeat what they say. This training teaches us to look, see, and know for ourselves. So when he comes in and he's looking for, it's like, oh, he's upset because he needs to go home. And I'm doing some techniques here too, like grounding the room, helping to ground him, helping to get him in the body. If you're going to be here, come on in, So there was techniques going on too. But I would have a little fun with it too. Say, well, this is your house, isn't it nice? You look around and you say, yes, this is nice. I said, well, your lovely wife is down the hall, and I'm your favorite daughter, and I'm just on the other side of the hall. I'm not the favorite, but that's okay. I had fun with it because the other one gave him grandkids. but I had a little fun with it. And half of the time he had one foot in this world, one foot in another, and it brought a lot of confusion. And it was, as a clairvoyant, it's hard to go through as a person when you're the caregiver there, but as a clairvoyant, it was really fascinating to see the process of kind of gradually stepping out into that other side. Here's another thing that happens when somebody passes away that you may not recognize, is that there can be a feeling of joy or elation, not because they passed, you miss them. Their body is not here. You can't talk to them verbally. You can talk to them spirit to spirit, but there's obviously a grief and a sadness when they leave. The joy I'm talking about is tapping into the celebration of the party at the river. I'll give you an example. Just recently, so a friend of mine, a peer in my spiritual group, passed away. And I knew she was close. And in fact, my advanced healer group gave her healing. She called and asked for a healing. I said, wouldn't you like a line read, a group to read? She said, oh, yes, that would be nice. So we gave her a nice healing. And as I instruct my group, a healing can be for here or to go. As my teacher used to laugh, Michael Tamura, your healings can be for here to go or to go. And it's always useful, isn't it? So with Kathy, I'd been talking with her a bit, and we gave her this healing, and she knew she had a terminal cancer that was very aggressive. She knew she was a great healer and a reader, a spiritually oriented person. And she looked at this and went, well, do I try to heal myself, use my healing abilities, stay a little longer, hang out with the grandkids, or do I just go ahead and use this door as an exit? And I know she was looking at that for a while, and she said, yeah, it's like being on the rim of the Grand Canyon and going, I'm going down the canyon. I can either do the switchbacks or I can just jump off the edge. That was her words. And I knew what she meant, was like, I can do the quick exit or I can stay around. She decided that she was ready to leave, and she was taking her steps with pride. And what I watched was about, I don't know the exact day. I got a call about 3 days later after, or 2 days later after she passed. But there was one day I was driving home, regular day, sun shining. I'm just doing my regular thing. And I just felt really joyful. And I'm like, wow, how do I capture this and keep this joy every day? This is awesome. And there was nothing to relate it to. And maybe I had some readings in the morning. That makes me feel good. But I think I was coming home from the grocery store and just like, wow, joyful. How do I bottle this? And it was a couple days later, I realized that was the time of her passing, and that was the celebration. I experienced it a bit also. One other side story, when my teacher passed. At that same time, my mom was in the ER, and I'm with her. I don't know, it's midnight or something. And all of a sudden, I was aware energetically, there's all these angels here, but I knew they weren't for my mom. I'm like, she's not going today. This is not, these guys aren't here for her. And I was like, wow, everything went gold. And all these angels, I'm like, what? Hi. I don't know what this is about. It confused me because I'm in the ER and my mom's there. She was starting to fall asleep, but I knew she wasn't leaving that day. I found out the next morning that was the time of Michael's passing. So having a celebration or a feeling of unexpected joy can happen. Let's look at the comments. Did I miss anything? I think I got it here. Okay, let's look at another one. So we've looked at the gathering of the souls at the river. We've looked at going through a life review. We've looked at having exhilaration or joy, which is tuned in to the party of the deceased loved ones that are on the other side. Here's another one, that our grief doesn't have to look like anybody else's. And I would point you right to my friend Jen Matthews' TEDx talk, where she talks about that in depth. So I'm not even going to get there. What is it? Her cover is something like death is inevitable, grief is optional. So she has a different view, which I share, about grief, that it doesn't have to look like these 5 stages. That was one person's idea that got it adopted in a larger sense. It can look different. So the other thing I noticed was with my dad, when he passed, part of our training, we can help a soul kind of gather their energy and take their next steps. And as I did that for my dad, I realized, whoa, he's a lot bigger soul than I realized, right? Here's this calm mannered, doesn't say much, really didn't say much at all the whole life, but steady, sturdy guy. And when I looked at him as soul, it's like literally the tip of the iceberg. I saw this with another shape friend years ago, Katie, that passed, when we did a big send-off for her as a group, and we meditated together in a memorial sense, and did a nice send-off for her, which was extremely transformative. I saw with her and with my dad, it was like the tip of the iceberg. We see that person as being this big, walking around Earth and just having maybe a small footprint and not affecting a lot of people, but underneath, they're huge as a soul. So just because someone doesn't have a huge imprint on the world around us, it doesn't mean that we're not affecting a lot of people, and 2, that we're not a much bigger soul, and maybe having a kind of a rest life here, or working out some karma with family members. So let me share also, there were some other times where, with my dad and dementia, there were times where, and you could expect this, where he's speaking with deceased loved ones. If you don't know the people he's talking to, it sounds like, oh, it's just nonsense, or, he's lost his mind. He didn't know where he is. But it made sense. Like when he said he was just talking to mom. So he's talking about my grandmother, his mom, whom I'm named for. And he said, oh, Grandma was just in the hall. And I'm like, yeah, I just saw her in the kitchen in spirit. Of course, she passed a long time ago. And there was another one. He was in a back room with my brother, and he was saying, I was just talking to Tommy. Well, Tommy passed away about 2 months ago. And Dad was having a conversation. This is again slipping, what I witnessed is slipping 1 foot here and 1 foot there, kind of going back and forth. And he said, well, Tommy's right there. Don't you see him? Well, Tommy came to visit me probably 6 weeks ago or something. I was going on a hike nearby. He was an avid hiker, and he had just passed, as I said, I think it was January, February or something, family friend. And I just touched the trail. I'd just gotten from the neighborhood to the trail. Redwoods, beautiful area. And I'm just, doing my thing, trying to clear my mind. And I stepped there and boom, oh, I'm aware of Tommy. And I said, hey, how are you? And he said, so this is where you are. And I said, yep. He said, we had no idea who you were or what you were doing. I said, I know. And we chatted for a little bit, and he went on. So I asked him if he would be around. I asked him, is somebody passing? Are you letting me know about that? And I said, will you be there for Dad? And he said, yeah. So we had a nice chat. And it wasn't surprising at all for me to hear from my brother that Dad was saying, oh, I saw Tommy. So again, he's got 1 foot here, 1 foot there, and it just made it so real. Oh, we got a bunch of comments coming in. A future shopper. Blessings. Hi, Debbie. Suffering is optional. That's correct. I agree. Okay. Debbie says, met Michael many years ago and was saddened by his passing. Yes, then you've been touched by him. You know, let me say something else about Michael's passing. That was a whole nother thing. You could not have a better prepared group of souls than us, because Michael would talk about death and laugh all the time. Why is he laughing? Because he knows it's not real. And he knows that there's more to this life than what we give it. So as well prepared as we were, there was still just tons of grief going around the room. And maybe, John, if you were there, let me know if you experienced that. Here I am. This is my thing, you guys. This is what I love teaching, is for empaths, HSP, people highly sensitive, people intuitives, how to manage your own energy when you're picking up the whole room. I love that. That's like my thing. And so here I was at my teacher's memorial, and I'm feeling all this grief, and I'm going, man, I suck at this right now. I'm feeling all this. I'm like, what's going on? It would be this wave of grief. You know how you go to a football game and they go, woo, and then the next person, you know, does the wave and it goes around the room. It felt like that in the memorial. But what I realized later was, because, and it didn't correlate to what was being shared by the people speaking. It was like, it just came out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, this is exhausting. What's going on? You know, adjust this, adjust that. And there's all these tools and techniques that we do. But what was happening on a bigger scale was that we were all getting a healing. And so it was letting go of that which divides ourselves. And that was the painful part. So that was a different story. Let's see what we have here. Piano soul reader. When you come to a good stopping place, I'm interested in a mini reading. When I give mini readings, past people have begun reaching out to me, wondering what that's about and how I can prep. Thanks. Yeah, you got it, John. Before I do, if you guys find this content helpful, please give me a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribing and all. There are a couple classes coming up of starting in May 7th, 5-week class, Anchored Intuitive. If you're looking at the world and going, this is a crazy place, how do I deal with it? Sign up for that class. And there's a VIP option where you can get a reading, full reading. Then I'm going to be in person in Shasta for a 1-day workshop on the 19th of June and a 3-day retreat in June. And then another 1-day Zoom class Saturday, May 10th, where everybody gets a healing. We're going to be working with the energy of Mount Shasta. All right, John. So you want a little reading? Debbie says, do all the YouTube-y things. Yeah, I'm required. All right, so I like to give a little mini reads here to give an example of this. John is also a spiritually trained clairvoyant, and he uses his superpowers in music. John, I see a big spirit guide really overshadowing you right now. And it's kind of white with a little bit of this green, this kind of color, light teal green to it. It's very nurturing too. It's a very, very nurturing guide that's wanting you. One of the things that looks like in your type of healings is helping people to find calm, helping people to find peace. So like if somebody's just gotten a bad diagnosis, or somebody's going through a hardship, or some kind of troubled times, you look like your pager goes off, your app on your phone. Okay, healer alert. We need a triage at this address, that you get called in. And this specialty guide is coming up. This is not your primary guide. Your primary guide is standing further back in the more of a light blue. But this newer guide is here, helping to bring in this calmness, and it's what you do too. And the music is like setting the stage for the healing to happen. So it's setting the stage, bringing calm, and with that all set up, then the transformation, the transmutation for the individual can happen. So it's not so much by I'm going in, I'm pulling this out, I'm rearranging that, I'm routing them over this way. It's yours looks more like I set the table, the foundation, and an energetic space is created, that the first thing it brings is this calmness, and from the calmness they can find their own internal joy. Was that your question, John? He says, when giving readings, past people have begun to reach, past as in deceased people. Yeah. So you're having more communication with the other side. I'll tell you, John, I am too. So I've noticed, I even did a little channeling of information from somebody's guide the other day. I do know how to channel. I've taken a lot of training, but I don't usually do it. I like to just get that information, but I'm finding the veil thinner. So yes, it's easier to communicate with deceased loved ones right now. It's easier to get that guidance from spirit, from your primary guides. I'm experiencing that too, as a thinning of the veil. But say hello to that new guide coming in. That's it's like really overshadowing you, like right behind you, and helping as you do your piano work. Debbie says, Mount Shasta sounds awesome. Yes, it is going to be awesome. Debbie says, one last thing here. If you have time, I'm currently doing ancestry on my mom's side. Does OB have anything to add? OB? Is that the right? There's an idea that somebody was a runt of the litter, or somehow was different or left out, and Obi's saying that it's all by design. You came here, and there's some kind of God religious language here, this is all by design. So the person that felt like the runt of the litter, the one left out, the one not validated, not seeing the world the same as the rest, it's not so, and that person is loved more than you realize, especially by OB. OB's been quietly guiding in the background as well. Anything else? There's a man with OB as well, and they're by some water. The water reminds me of like Louisiana or something, where like there's a dock and a calm water, not waves, but like calm, like the bayou or something. John says, thank you. You're welcome, John. Kathy from Wilbur. Oh, good to hear from you. I'm sorry about Mark, passed away 2 weeks ago. Let's see if Mark's around. Sometimes when they're recently deceased, it's actually a little harder to communicate with them because they do have to go through their life review, and that can take some time. I've discovered in my own experience that about 30 days later or so, it's a little easier to speak with that person. Mark is saying, I'm free. He is free. He felt trapped in life, trapped by some situations of wanting to express more, I would think, of himself. So Mark is saying, I'm free, and like can't wait to show you around the other side, quote. Debbie's saying, OB is a man, one of a large family. Yes. All right. You guys, thanks for joining me. If you have a topic that you want to see covered here for spiritual growth, expansion, awakening, please put that in the comments. If you, you know what? I have a quiz on my website, 𝗀𝗟𝗄𝗎𝗆.com. If you haven't taken the quiz, see where your superpowers are. It's actually part of a mini course just for $5. It's a lot of fun. Get you started on this style of training. Other classes are listed on there. And I do hope to see you again next time. Thanks for joining me.